Hello everybody and welcome back to my channel. I have too many art supplies. So in today's video, I'll show you how I decluttered and reorganized it all. And since this topic is a passion of mine, this video is jam-packed with all the tips and tricks I've learned over the years from different experts and my own experience. In my last video, I talked about why I want to challenge myself to not buy any art supplies in 2026 and how I want to commit to using up a lot of my materials. And I was mind blown by how much that topic resonated with you. I had so many comments of people sharing their own experiences, feelings and struggles. Thank you all so much and welcome to all the new subscribers. I think dozens of you committed to join the No Buy year. It's incredible and it's given me such a boost to know that this is a collective effort. It's like you're all my accountability buddies now and I don't want to disappoint you. You know, I was actually afraid to publish that video because I thought people might feel attacked and get defensive about buying so many art supplies and that people might even unfollow me. And instead the exact opposite happened. It really made me realize that there are so many people like me out there who have bought too much, who thought each new thing will help them improve their art, and instead it just collects more dust, takes more space, and leaves us all feeling guilty and not knowing what to do first. I was planning on decluttering and reorganizing, and I asked you if you want to see a video about it. A lot of you said yes, so here's that video. I've worked really hard all week on both the decluttering and organizing as well as this video, and it's really full of everything I know about decluttering and organizing. I think especially art supplies can be really tough to organize well. So just to be clear, decluttering means letting go of items you no longer need or want, either by donating or throwing them away. Organizing is about how you store the things you want to keep in the best way. Let's use the comment section, a bit like last time, to collect your experiences, your struggles with how to organize or declutter, and all your tips and ideas for cool storage or anything you think could help others. Obviously, I hope some of you might get inspired to declutter and reorganize your own art materials, so please let me know how it goes. I love reading about your experiences. But why would you want to join? Let me address briefly why, because I think it has a lot more benefits than many people realize. 1. Knowing everything you own. No more hidden items at the bottom of a messy drawer or in the back of a closet in some plastic bag or box that you haven't opened in years or decades. 2. Knowing where everything is. No more searching for materials when you decide to actually use them. It's a great feeling to know where everything goes. 3. Feeling unburdened from letting go all of these things that we hold on to for the wrong reasons. Guilt being one of the biggest ones, but I'll get more into those wrong reasons later. Every time I declutter and that burden leaves me, it feels great. 4. Making space for the things you love. If you're watching this video, chances are that you have lots of art supplies and that they're not all easily accessible or stored in a way that pleases you. Decluttering frees that space to allow you to store your favorite items much better. And number 5 is about tidying up. When you have less and what you have is well organized, tidying up is the easiest thing in the world. Everything has a home, is easily accessible, and you know where that home is. It just makes life so much easier and it lets you spend your precious free time on creating rather than dealing with the clutter. Okay, so let's really get started now. The first step is take everything out. Now, most of what I know about all of these processes is based on Marie Kondo. She has a book and also a Netflix series actually about decluttering and organizing, and I will often refer to her approach. I agree with almost everything she advocates, and I think she has a very thoughtful approach. So most of what I'll talk about is based on her expertise, but at times I will also refer to other sources, in particular the YouTube channel SpaceMaker Method, and sometimes even the British TV show Sort Your Life Out. I will put all this in the description. I just wanted to quickly acknowledge all these sources. So Marie Kondo's approach takes time and real effort. It's a method for decluttering everything you own. But of course we're just going to apply it to art supplies now. She would say, first, get everything you own in this category and put it all in one big pile. On a big table, or if that's not enough, then in one room on the floor or on a bed or whatever. Look at it. Face the truth of how much you really own. How does it make you feel? Take time to process your feelings. Also, look at your empty spaces. See how nice it feels to have all of this space. This, by the way, is also at the core of that TV show I mentioned, Sort Your Life Out, where they move everything from someone's house and they lay it all out in a huge warehouse so that people can really see just how much stuff they own. It's shocking. It also shows them how big their house feels without all the stuff in it. When I declutter nowadays, I don't do this with the entire category anymore, but I still apply this to subcategories or individual spaces. I'll empty out my entire art cart, as well as this one cabinet that just contained all these random additional art materials. This gives you an empty slate to work with and a chance to clean these spaces. Sometimes it'll also help you to realize that you should organize things differently or in different areas. The most crucial reason to take everything out though is this. It's a completely different process to pick the items you want and to put those back into the shelf or the drawer, than vice versa. To pick out the ones you don't want and take them off of the shelf. I'm telling you, it's like magic. For some reason, picking what you want and putting it back will lead you to declutter more. The next stage is decluttering. That means figuring out what to keep and what not to keep. Don't organize yet, only declutter. Go one item at a time. In Marie Kondo's approach, you pick it up and you hold it. Every single item. And you ask yourself, does this spark joy? Now, some people made fun of this question. But I think it's valid because the point is to distinguish whether you hold on to something because you really love it or for the wrong reasons. What are the wrong reasons? Well, the number one is guilt. You feel guilty because you spent all that money on it and then you didn't use it. You feel guilty because it was a discount and that's the only reason you bought it. Or maybe you feel guilty because you bought too much of it, maybe even multiple of the same thing at the same time. You might hold on to it because you still have this fictional idea of yourself. You know, maybe you're thinking, I'd like to be a painter because it's really cool. But actually, you only enjoy drawing. You don't really enjoy painting. So try to also think about who's the real you and what do you actually enjoy using. Another huge reason people hold on to things is because that was a gift by someone or they won it in some contest or something. But that's not a reason to keep this item in your house forever. One way to think about it is to ask yourself, would that person really want you to suffer from all this clutter in your house? All these presents from over the years that you don't really use? Maybe it would actually honor that person and the gift more to pass it along to someone who will actually use it. Another wrong reason to hold on to something is just because it was really expensive. And you thinking that giving it away seems like you're wasting money. But the thing is, you already spent that money. It's already gone, wasted, if you will. Keeping this item in your shelf without using it doesn't actually change anything about that. And think of the joy you could actually give someone who could not afford this thing. The point is, just because it was expensive doesn't mean you should hold on to it. And finally, another potentially wrong reason to hold on to something is because of a memory that is attached to it. Marie Kondo calls this sentimental value items. And actually, she suggests to only declutter sentimental items at the very end of your journey because it takes the most skill in a way, the most decluttering confidence to deal with those items. I will talk a bit more about this later. But essentially, the question is, do you need the object to have the memory? And there are some alternative ways, like taking a picture, that you could potentially deal with those things. Okay, so you're holding your item and you ask yourself whether this sparks joy. Well, some people struggle to identify this feeling, or they find that everything sparks joy, or nothing sparks joy. So there are some alternative questions like, is this something you want in your future? Do you see your future self with this? Or is it something useful, something that makes your life easier? Is it something you use regularly? If you don't know how sparking joy feels, you can also try to pick up some of your absolutely favorite things, the things you're 100% confident that you want to keep, and see how they make you feel when you hold them. Over time, this skill to identify what sparks joy will improve. Your decluttering muscles will grow. Another thing I love about Marie Kondo's approach is about how you let things go. So every item you declutter, you don't just toss. You appreciate the role that it's played in your life and you thank it. Now, of course, the object can't hear you. It's more about how you consume and the thought process behind the decluttering. For instance, even if it's something that cost a lot and you never used, instead of feeling guilty, you can thank the object for what it has taught you about your preferences and about your consumption patterns. You can appreciate it for the lesson you learned, like, I don't enjoy painting with oil. And then you can let the item go, and along with it, your guilt for buying it and not using it properly. And hopefully, by going through this process consciously, you will consume more carefully in the future. So here I've taken out everything from this drawer, but there was this bowl collecting all kinds of random things. So I just quickly do a first pass and I take everything out and put it on the table. I'm sorting the stickers into this pouch and I put some illustrators' business cards on another little pile. Like sometimes you can already just put things in small categories while you go through them. And then I put all the art materials into this pouch so that it's contained for now. I'll go through that later. But let's take one step back. Imagine you've just taken all kinds of stuff out and piled it all on the table. This is where I'm at right now. I've cleared out some drawers and my entire art cart, and I filled both these tables to the brim. A lot of people get overwhelmed at this point. And this is where I think actually that the SpaceMaker Method channel on YouTube has taught me some good tips. Basically, it's for people who want to go bit by bit. So what the woman from the SpaceMaker Method advocates is this. First, you look for obvious trash, receipts or plastic foil or whatever. You should always keep a trash bag right next to you while you declutter. Throw all the obvious trash away. And then you continue with the things that are really easy to decide on. Either something you definitely want to keep or something you definitely want to let go of. And this is what I'm doing here. I'm looking for things I know for sure I want to declutter. For instance, this set of colorful wax crayons. I take it and I put it into the declutter bag. Next, this aquarelle effect spray. Watercolor itself has enough effect for me. I don't need extra special effects. Thank you. Bye bye. The Himi gouache. I have other gouache that I love much more. Lesson: don't buy into trends and get alternatives to things you already own. Thank you. Bye bye. You get the idea. Everything you want to declutter should go either in the trash bag or into a donation bag. Everything else can go into a corner or a box or a bag for now. This is what we're keeping. Pick it up and put it aside. Don't just leave it on the table. I'm putting those things on that chair in the back for now. The goal at the moment is just to clear the sorting area, in this case my table, to go through every single thing and make a decision, so that everything that was on there has been decided upon. Keep, donate, trash, maybe. If you can't decide, you can keep a maybe pile. The important thing right now is to keep the momentum up. The SpaceMaker method prioritizes the momentum over getting rid of the most stuff. The idea is that the most important thing is that you don't get stuck in the middle of the process and stop, because this happens to a lot of people. Also, the lady from this method advocates decluttering confidently, so that means no regrets. When you're uncertain whether to keep or toss something, better keep it for now or put it into a maybe pile that you'll revisit later. Why? Because some people declutter too hardcore and then they regret it later. And that is counterproductive because it will make you scared to let go of anything and want to hold on to more stuff ultimately. Look at those 5 different versions of masking fluid we have. A material that neither of us actually use. I kept one and my boyfriend also kept some, but we also decluttered the rest. Here I am fretting over whether or not to keep this packaging. So silly. I had thought about reviewing these pencils and that's why I kept it. I know a lot of people like to keep things in their packaging. For some reason, we're made to believe that it's important to keep it. Of course, sometimes for returning items to the store it matters, but let's be honest, we won't ever return those art supplies. Let's look at some more specifics. Here I am deciding on my gelatos. I used to have my favorite colors in that jar there, and then all the rest was stored away. But now I want to revisit this distinction. So I went through all of them, swatching them. And so these are the ones I want to keep, including those 2 here. And these are all the ones I've already decided that I don't want to keep. And then there's still those 3 that I'm uncertain about. So let me find a bigger container for the keepers. Let's use this one here and add the ones I'm keeping. This is the biggest container like that I have. So I know that I don't want to keep more than I can fit in here. Okay, not that much space left. I can probably only add 1 more. So let me decide on those 3 maybes. I'll look at them again side by side. Okay, this one can go. This one as well. And this last one, that one I want to keep. Will this fit? It's a bit of a struggle, but okay, I did it. And that means I just eliminated an entire container, because all those 9 can go and make someone else happy, while all the ones I love will actually have a place on my art card. At this point, I decided to already move some of the things that I know I want to keep on the art card. Not perfectly organizing them, but just to put the things on the card that I want to keep and that will live there. I'm clearing the table bit by bit. So the gelatos can now go on the card. These are my fancy and delicate brushes. I already went through them off camera. They're all gonna stay. Here I have all my transparent tombos, which are the ones that I really like, so they're staying. And this paper roll also lives here for easy and quick access when I'm in the middle of painting or I have an ink spill or something. And now I have to sort through the remaining jars. Let's look at pencils next. I already know I want to keep all my luminance pencils. So I'm just picking out all the pencils from other brands to see if there's anything I might want to declutter. I swatched them all quickly and I put the ones that I want to keep back in the jar. Such lovely colors. On the side, I keep the ones that I'm not sure about yet. And then I also remembered that I still have a few vintage pencils in this other container, mixed in with a set of watercolor pencils and some other random pencils. So I grab out all the regular ones and go through them too. Those vintage ones are surprisingly good still, so I decide to add the hues that I want to keep into my jar that will live on the art card. If I store them somewhere else, I'm never going to use them. The ones I don't want to keep go into that jar in the back, which is the Declutter jar. I also found a couple of strays that belong with another set of watercolor pencils. So once I'm finished, they can go on the art card too, and I continue with the next jar, which contains all my ink sketching tools, especially fine liners. I really don't like thin fine liners, so I really have no clue why in the world I have so many. I'm testing them all to see whether they're still working. I declutter all the thin ones. And in the process, I'm reminded that I have a few transparent ones, which are so cool for shadows. Rediscovering my own art materials. This too is why it's good to really go through everything. I'm also noticing that some of them are a bit dried out, which creates this beautiful dry brush effect. I really like that effect, but it's so annoying that I can never know which they are when I'm looking for one. So I have this idea of painting the tips of the emptier ones pink. Now I'll always be able to distinguish the juicy from the drier fineliners. And I decluttered 9. This lets me downsize the jar they are in, freeing some of that really precious space on the top level of my art card. I repeat this process with all of these jars. A lot of times I found that when we have a set of something, we just tend to keep the whole thing without questioning it. You might look at your acrylic paints and just ask, do I want to keep acrylic paint as a whole category? Yes. And so you keep all of them. But ideally, you should really go through every individual item. Are there some colors you really don't like? Maybe you can let them go. Some tubes from brands where you don't like the smell, the opacity, the texture? Let them go. Some dried out ones? Trash. A lot of times I've been shocked how much of a difference it can make to just pare things down. So this is something you see me do here a lot. I'm not really letting go of entire subcategories, but I am letting go of a lot of items within each category. And all this freed space often means that you can organize things differently, more efficiently. I'm now able to fit more of my favorite mediums on my art card because a few categories have shrunk down and can now fit into smaller containers. Here I'm tackling my new color tools. I used to have 3 containers. I'm setting myself a limit of 2. The small one contains my favorites that live on the art card. I break them apart because I like using them on their side. That's also why the wrappers are off here. So I keep the second half of the broken ones in this bigger tin with my backstock. And in this little jar I used to keep some extra colors that I didn't like so much. But now I just want to declutter the colors that I won't use and fit what remains into these 2 tins. In the end, I only let go of 2, this bright green and purple, so it's a bit of a puzzle, but I did make it work. So sometimes giving yourself this physical limit can also help to make those decisions. And also, when I look at this green that I'm getting rid of just by itself, it makes me question whether I should really let this go. But when you have a lot of colors, I think it's useful to look at all the similar ones together. I know that I have neo colors in greens that are 100 times more beautiful in my personal view. And that's why I can let this really bright one go confidently. So if you have a huge set of something that you try to pare down, let's say pencils, look at all the pencils in the same color family together. There are probably some that you love the most. And maybe the ones that are pretty similar but less beautiful can go to someone who will love them. When you declutter, losing momentum is one of the biggest dangers. I already mentioned it a bit. Decluttering is very taxing mental and emotional labor. Don't underestimate or trivialize it. You will make hundreds, thousands of decisions. You will face lots of difficult emotions in the process. You will also face moments where you just don't see a solution to a problem, like how to store something. My advice: don't do everything at once. Pick a stack, a category, a drawer. Find a comfortable spot. I don't really recommend doing it on the floor unless you're like all fit and healthy and you can sit on the floor comfortably for a long time. Take your stack, put it on a table and sit down. Don't get up until you've gone through the entire stack. There will constantly be distractions, things where you'll say, "Oh, I will just quickly bring this in the kitchen where it belongs. Oh, I will just quickly clean this. Oh, I will ask my husband or my kids or my friends on WhatsApp if they want this." There will be items where you just can't decide. put them on a maybe pile. The only objective right now is to finish going through that stack that's right in front of you, to decide what to keep and what to let go of. Me, what I do is I always have the trash bag ready next to me, and I also have a bag for things to donate. This includes things that I might want to give to friends. I don't worry yet about deciding what will be donated where or to whom. That's a task for later. For now, it's just one big donate bag. And then I also like to make a few categories on my desk. Of course, there are categories of items that belong together and they will be stored together. For instance, a stack for finished paintings, a stack for empty paper, a stack for collage paper. But what I do now, what has also really helped me to not get sidetracked, is to have stacks which I categorize by action. And by that I mean the action that needs to be applied to the stack. For instance, I often make a stack of things that already have a home somewhere that I just need to tidy. So it could be a mix of documents, screws, elastic, a postcard, a cable, whatever. Those random things that somehow got mixed in with other stuff. So those items don't belong together, but what unites them is that once I finish going through my pile, I can pick this entire category up and go through the apartment tidying all the bits and pieces in their respective homes. Another category could be action items, things that won't just get stored away, but that I need to do something with or to first. For instance, here you see that as I went through this paper stack, I found packaging that contained information that I wanted to keep. There was also this pamphlet I wanted to keep, as well as all these business cards that I collected at art and illustration fairs. I put all of those things in my action stack because I need to take action. I want to glue the pamphlet and this packaging info into a sketchbook. And I want to follow those illustrators online, and then I can get rid of the business cards. So I made a stack that needs to be tidied away at the top right, the action stack to the left of it, and a stack with empty paper to the left of that one. At the bottom right, I'm combining paper that has some paint on it that I want to use as backgrounds with other unfinished artwork and other creative projects. And then right in front of me, I collected all the pieces of paper that I've used in sketchbooks to protect the paintings from transferring when you close it and you use the next couple of pages. So once I was done going through the big pile, I tackled the different categories one by one. I put some of that sketchbook paper into the relevant sketchbooks where I might actually use it. And I decided to use all the remaining paper for when I want to take quick notes, which I do all the time. Next, I tackled the action subcategory and I quickly glued those things into this old awful sketchbook, which I only use now to create color palettes or glue things in. The business cards I put aside to go through in the evening while watching TV, which I did, and then I threw them away. Next, I tackled the tidy it up category and I brought everything to its home. And the last substack, the creative projects, I kept on the table for now because I needed to still find a home for them, and I wanted to wait until the end of the process to know where this new home would be. Obviously, your categories will be different. My main point is that in order not to lose momentum, focus on finishing one pile at a time. Push through until you reach the end of that pile. If you have to test something, do it right now. Here I am going through all the sharpeners and testing them all to see which I like and which work for my pencils. Notice how I test them with different types of pencils because different brands have different sizes. I have that one strange sharpener that I have no clue where it came from, this yellow one, which is pretty big. So I checked, but it's not big enough for my only two fat pencils. So I thought the only other way I might ever use it would be to sharpen wax or oil crayons. So I got my new colors to try it out. Again, I'm committing to finishing this pile and to take a decision on every item right now. It worked well with the new colors, so I decided to keep it and to store it with my crayons. And I decluttered 3 sharpeners. If there are things that you're not sure about yet, make a maybe pile and take another look at it the next day. At some point, after a couple of hours, when every single decision is tormenting you, acknowledge that you've reached your limit for the day. Stop, rest, start fresh the next day. Oftentimes, you will be surprised how unsurmountable problems or decisions suddenly become easily solved. Maybe you can't tell in this video, but this entire process took me 4 days. I never declutter more than 4 or 5 hours in a day. Then I stop and I do something else. It's just a lot easier when you're rested. You can only make so many decisions in a day. Here I am trying to decide on these swatch cards that I used to make of all my watercolors. I'm sure some of you also have some cards like this. The idea was that I'd be able to make nice color palettes using these. But even though in my last reorganization I decided to put them all right next to my workspace on the windowsill, I still never used them. All they do is take space and collect dust. So I was trying to come up with an idea of how I could use them, because I still think that they're pretty. So I laid them out like that a bit, and I quite like how that looks. So I decided to add this to my pile of creative projects. I have an idea now. I might either glue them all on a big paper, or I will try to sew them all together in some kind of a wall hanging. Okay, at this point I think we should also start talking about organizing. For now, I've mostly shown you the decluttering. Honestly, it's the part that takes the most effort and time. It's the hardest, and that's why I tried to give as many tips as I could think of. I said before, ideally, according to Marie Kondo, you should first only declutter an entire category, and only once you're finished, you start to organize it. I think this is great advice for people who are doing this for the first time or find the decluttering difficult. Or of course, if you don't have that much, it's also an obvious choice. It's just easy to get distracted and over-invested in organization before you've finished. Personally, I mix the organizing a bit into the decluttering. With some categories, I wait till the end. But some items I organize immediately, or I at least try to find a good container straight away. I'll show you some examples, and then I'll discuss some general principles of organizing. Here I am going through all the items in this tool category. This container is definitely not working for me. I hate it. Everything always gets lost. So I take everything out, make sure that everything belongs in this category and that I want to keep it all, and then I put most of the things into the silver container. But as I look at it, I already know this is too big. And I'd prefer something transparent, so the smaller items won't get lost at the bottom. So instead of postponing this issue, I go and I grab 2 alternatives immediately. I try out the first glass and I like it. So this is done and I can put it on the art card. Next, I want to look at this little box. Tiny items are really hard to organize well. And I think we have a lot of those among our art supplies, don't we? The key is to contain everything. You can put smaller containers into bigger containers, and that way keep everything tidy and organized, looking neat and easy to maintain. I know I want to find a small glass for these pencils, a really narrow one, so I go do that. I have this teeny tiny pot for my graphite pencils without a wooden casing. This has worked well, so I'm keeping it, and I put it inside the box. Then I have these 3 pen pastels, my only 3 pen pastels, and they have never really had a home before. Poor guys. They were just floating around and getting lost on the art card. So I want to try adding them to this box of little items. It works, even if they're not perfectly in a row. Then I'll also put the art graph back here, and this liquid charcoal, I want to use it more, so I will take it out of the packaging and also add it here. So let me address one of the most important things I have learned from Marie Kondo. Whenever possible, store things vertically. It's a game changer. I don't know why it's so normal in our culture to stack things, but vertical is so much better. I really apply this everywhere I can now. Even with this little box, you see the pen pastels are vertical, the art graph, the tiny charcoal tubes, and even the graphite sticks. Why is this so crucial? Because vertical storing allows you to see things easily. You can see everything in this box with one look. You can grab everything easily, and you can tidy everything easily. Stacks are the enemy, guys. Seriously. Try to avoid them anywhere you can, especially in drawers. When you have stacks, you only see the one thing at the top. You can't see what's underneath. And it makes grabbing things and tidying them harder. Basically, whenever you open any kind of container, whether it's a box or a drawer, you should be able to see everything at a glance. That means you probably have a well-organized box. Of course, you should store similar items together. That's pretty obvious, I guess. But sometimes it can also make sense to make different types of categories. For instance, here I'm going through all these markers. I really don't like those Stabilo felt tip markers anymore. So first I'm picking out all the other types, my favorites. Here I am pondering how to reorganize them in a way that works better for me. I try to grab all my favorite markers and add them to this cat jar that also contains my favorite Tombos, the transparent ones. To me, these are similar types of markers because I would use them together. Then I grab another jar where until now I've collected a few things that I like less, but that I still want to keep to force myself to use them up. I decide to take these highlighters out and instead organize them in my office desk rather than in the art area, because I won't use them for sketching. In my office I might actually use them. After thinking a few more minutes about the rest, I decide to split it into two jars. One on the left with all these markers and other things that are a bit random, but that I do like. I only use them sometimes for specific purposes. And the other jar will be a use up challenge jar. It might seem strange to you that I don't put all my Tombos together, but that's because some are transparent and some are opaque. I use these two categories for completely different purposes. The transparent ones for sketching, but the opaque ones I only use to write in one specific sketchbook, where I write down all the things that I learned during art classes. So that's what I mean when I say sometimes you should make categories based on how you use your art supplies. What things you use together, for instance, rather than just based on similarity. Then I tested out all the Stabilo markers to see if any of them were dried out. They weren't. And I decided to declutter these 4 double tip Tombos because they're relatively high quality, but I really don't enjoy them. So I figure someone else might be really happy with them, and so I'll donate them. And then I decided to add all of these Stabilo markers to the Use It Up challenge jar. I'm happy with this reorganization, but only time will tell whether this works for me. I think organization is never finished or perfect. You can always try it out, seeing how you actually use things and shift things around. The way you use things also changes over time, so it just makes sense that you have to keep adapting it. At this point, I was slowly coming towards the end, and I'm going to change to real-time Nina to explain a bit where I was at. Please excuse some of the background noises. Okay guys, here we are on day 4, I think, of decluttering, and I think I'm actually doing quite well. Right now what still remains over here, that's my maybe pile. I have here some pencils, one of my watercolor sets, some more fine liners, a set of pencils and a set of watercolor pencils. So these I still have to decide on. Over here is lino printing that I have to just put in the right place. Over here are just some empty pouches that I'm keeping. Here are those random pieces of paper I can use for notes that I still have to figure out where to store them. That might just go back on the windowsill. And here are all my creative projects. These two, I have to find a drawer or something. So each of these are different category. Like these are these skewers and porcelain paint. So it's a one-time thing. One day I will do this and then this is done. All these swatch cards I used to do that I never used, I have an idea of how to turn them into an artwork to hang on the wall. So that's a one-day project. And then over here I have this fan, you know, just a regular fan that I want to paint. That's a one-day project, and so on. Here I have a couple more. Finishing this painting, doing something with these Polaroids. And then here I just have a couple of things that I want to use either as a background to just paint on top or to finish. Like this one urban sketch needs to be finished and so on. Okay, so I need to find maybe a drawer for all these projects. But I've also decided that I want to schedule these in my calendar, because I think if I do that, that will just really help me. Like one day I can just be like, oh, today it's the time where I finally paint those skewers. Or today is the time where I will finally tackle this project. And I think by just scheduling them, it will again remove this decision fatigue, you know? Instead of sitting down and being like, oh, which of all of these projects am I gonna tackle? I will never finish them all. I can just know there is a place, a time for all of them. I don't have to worry about the rest. I can just tackle the one that I was planning for that day. And then over here, in this pouch, I've sort of collected all kind of things that I will definitely only use for travel. Like a mini spritzer, my mini watercolor set, mini scissors I like to always take when we go on vacation or on a trip somewhere. And also my 2 travel brushes that I have. So I'm just gonna keep all these travel things in this pouch and put them somewhere in a drawer. Here are a couple of things I still have to find a place for. These things back there too, have to find a place. And this item, it's a maybe. This should actually go over here. It's a gouache varnish, and I really don't know if I should keep that or not. So to be decided. Here's the trash bag down here. It's shockingly, actually, really full and heavy. And over here on the floor, I just have a whole mountain of organizers. Over the years of decluttering, I've just learned that you're always reorganizing things, and it's so useful to keep these. You know, some things are real sort of organizers, and a lot of things are just, you know, from boxes. I just keep those things because they're super useful to organize drawers. I will show you later. And over here we see I still have 2 open drawers right now. This one. Those up here are occupied. It's just to remind me what's in there. And so right now one of my main challenges is how to organize this. This used to be on my art card and I think it should go back there, but it's quite big. My art card is looking like this right now. Okay, so I've emptied out this box and given it a good clean because it was disgusting. And now I'm gonna go through this, even though I know I will keep it all, but double checking and also cleaning off just a bit of the dust. Here we have this glass. Here I keep those little things. Okay. And then all of these things, guys, these bamboo things. any of you out there who are watching use this, can you tell me, am I doing something wrong? I just feel like they really don't work for me. That's why I bought some more. This might have been one of those crazy ideas. It didn't work and I just bought more. I just feel like it doesn't hold any ink. Am I supposed to do something here? Can I sharpen them or anything? Let me know. I'm still keeping these for now. So acrylic box, it stays, ink box stays the same, but it's cleaned and I know everything I own. Let's try to give this a home on the art card. I think when organizing, we really have to be open to moving things around. You won't immediately find the perfect solution. That's another reason why it's good to keep things in smaller boxes, because then you can just shift the different parts around and try things out. Just gonna take this out for now, because I think that I do want this down here again. Let's see. Be like this, okay, and then I could just put those two next to it, right, like here. Okay, so now I have those two things here and I can still reach those two. The only thing I was worried about is keeping the gelatos back here. So that's the only thing I might still change. And then of course we now have these that I had to remove, but to be honest, that was never a great thing to put on the art card because it's so small and then it gets kind of hidden behind these walls. So these two, I might put it back where it was, which is the windowsill. Okay, voiceover Nina is back. While you enjoy a time lapse of some more decluttering and organizing of some other drawers and other stuff, I will talk about some last tips and things that I wanted to say that I haven't addressed yet. And then it's time to reveal the final result and I'll show you precisely how I organized all of my stuff. Okay, so I already mentioned that the biggest thing I've learned from Marie Kondo about organizing is to store things vertically whenever possible. And the second crucial lesson that I already mentioned a bit here and there is to compartmentalize your storage spaces. Use containers to do what's in their name, to contain your subcategories within drawers, shelves, boxes. You will see that things will stay so much tidier if you have these separations for the different categories. Again, it's easier to find and easier to tidy, not to speak of the joy it can give you to look at an organized drawer. That's what you saw in that pile of my organizers. All those carton boxes that I kept over the years from different packaging. But please, don't go out now buying containers. This is a super common mistake. The first thing that a lot of people do when decluttering is going to the store to buy a million boxes and containers. Ask yourself why. I think it's because it's an easy and fun thing to go shopping, but actually it's just a continuation of the exact same problematic overconsumption behavior that got you into this situation in the first place. So please, first do all the work of decluttering and organizing. Usually you'll notice you actually already have more organizers than you realized, and some of them might get freed up once you let go of items. Also, most of these containers I use inside of drawers, they're just packaging. I never went to buy these. So these are things that will just appear over time in your household once you start to collect them. If not, you can ask friends or family or even in stores whether they have some product packaging that they don't need. Packaging that's basically trash to them. Don't buy more stuff that will take more space. If at the end of the process, after you've gone through the decluttering and organizing, you still feel a need to buy containers, that's okay. But just don't do it during the process. The thing is that when you wait until the very end, you won't just buy random containers, but you can really measure the space where the organizer needs to go, and you will also know how big the amount of items is that needs to be contained. So you can get exactly what you need You can measure before you go out to buy and only get the perfect containers. Another point I wanted to make explicit is that when you finish decluttering and all your storage spaces are open and clean and free, you should analyze your storage spaces. Whenever possible, the things you use the most often should go into the most accessible and best storage. That could be on your table, on your art card, or the drawers or shelves that are right next to your table. I always ask myself, what's the prime real estate for my favorite tools to live? It seems obvious, but people often don't apply this logic. And by the way, this obviously applies to all of your storage. It's also relevant for your kitchen cabinets, for instance, or for your closet. The things you use the most should be the most accessible. Another tip, if you struggle with decluttering, sometimes it can really help to give yourself some kind of a limit. On the show that I mentioned, Sort Your Life Out, they often ask people to declutter 50% of their belongings. The percentage obviously depends on how much you have versus the storage space that's available. Maybe you just need to declutter 20% or maybe 80%. The point is, sometimes it really helps people to make some tough choices. They'll start by picking out their favorite items, and once they reach the limit, the remainders get decluttered. And if that's really impossible in a certain category, you can ask yourself, okay, if I want to keep more of these items, am I able to declutter more in another category? And it can also be a physical limit. Maybe you really want to store your acrylic gouache in a certain drawer, so you can only keep as many as you can fit in there. That's what I did with my gelatos and with my new color tools earlier. Another point I wanted to bring up is this. Crafty and artsy people are often also people who value reusing, recycling, and fixing things rather than throwing them in the trash and them ending up in a landfill. If you're someone who's like that, creative, and you see potential in everything, ask yourself, how many such projects do you want in your future? Will you actually ever choose tackling that project over something you enjoy doing, like painting in your sketchbook? Again, it might be useful to give yourself a limit, either a certain number of projects to fix or upcycle, say 5 projects, or one box that has to contain all of these projects, or even a limited amount of time, for instance 6 months, and after that you have to declutter everything that you haven't done. Another important topic is sentimental items. I mentioned earlier that I'm gonna talk about it later. So, a lot of things we hold on to hold sentimental value. They might remind us of a certain moment that we don't want to forget. They might have been bought on vacation. They may have been gifts. They may be reminding us of someone who has sadly passed away. So the reason we want to keep the item is the sentimental value it holds, and not because we still want to use the item. Now, of course, you can keep your sentimental items, but I think it's important to recognize the difference, because sometimes this will allow you to let go of things or to reorganize them. Especially if something is really big, it might be worth considering. Some people realize that they just want to take a picture of the thing so that they have the memory, and then they can actually let go of the object. It's because they realize that actually the memory is what matters and not the item itself. This way they won't lose the memory, but they still gain the space. Other people like to write the sentimental value down, if it's a precious memory, for instance. And maybe you could even paint or draw those items before decluttering them. And sometimes it can also be worth considering, if you want to keep something purely for sentimental value, then maybe you should store it somewhere else, with other sentimental items, rather than with the category it seems to belong to. For instance, my boyfriend has some tiny, cheap, dried out glasses of gouache. He knows he will never use them, and he has no problem acknowledging this. But he wants to keep them because there are some precious memories attached to them. So I asked him whether they might be stored somewhere else than in our art material section, and he was fine with that. So again, this can free up precious space that you want to keep for the things you actually use a lot. So this brings me to another important point. Never declutter someone else's or co-owned items. Never ever. It can be really tempting. You mean well, you're trying to help, but it's counterproductive. It will make that person distrust you, rightfully so. And it will not make them want to declutter anything. They're going to want to hold on even more tightly to their things. And actually, even reorganizing someone else's things should only be done with their explicit permission. Ideally, it should be done together. Because what matters for organization is not how you would use it or how you would organize it, but about how they do. Okay, I'll show you now the final result of how and where I organized all my different art materials. It's not perfect, but it's much better. It's tidier, cleaner, and there's less stuff. By the way, please don't think you have to organize like me, or that you need an art card now, or whatever. In my dream scenario, I would also have some other furniture. But we make do with what we have. Try to do the same and be inventive. Maybe you have a wine rack that doesn't get used that would make for great storage. Or maybe you have a document holder in your office. Try to look at what you have. But also, don't get sidetracked by these side quests. If suddenly you figure out that you would like to paint your shelf a different color, stop. First, finish decluttering and organizing. Once that's done, you can focus on other projects, and you'll even have more space to work on them. Okay, so now I want to show you what the final result looks like. Here on the top level, I sort of keep everything that I want to really be able to just peek out like that. I can either pick up the whole jar and put it on the table, or I can just, pick individual supplies I want. And these are like really my most used, or the things I want most available. I have some paper towel because I always need that. Here in the back I have a color wheel, which I sometimes use. And I have here one big thing like that with all of my older or cheaper brushes, as well as these kind of water brushes. And then over here I have another jar, and this is a smaller one, and this kind of holds my more expensive brushes, finer brushes. And here in the back, markers that I really enjoy using for sketching. And over here we have a jug with all my sort of classic sketching tools. That's mostly fine liners. I have here a little water spritz bottle that I use all the time actually. Over here I have my watercolor pencils. Here in the front, this I've changed. I said this before that I didn't like, before that these were down here, and I didn't like that just because I know that if they're tucked away down there, I'm much less likely to use them. Whereas if they're here, I can see them and I can just quickly grab one or two and integrate them into my sketch. Then here we have a big jar with all my favorite pencils. Over here, this is new, I have a small jar for pencils. Just because I felt like they were always getting lost, and when I actually needed one, I was always searching. And then there's just one more thing, and that's another glass. And this has kind of random tools. Oh yeah, and then here on the side, I basically just tucked in some paper because I'm always writing notes or I'm making little swatches. And so I just wanted to be really easily available. And here on the side, I don't know if you can see, I just clipped on this paper palette. I could never find a good spot for this on the art card because it's quite big, and I figured this way it's not really in the way. No, it's just hanging here on the side, and I can just grab it with one hand really easy like that. So I'm gonna give this a try. We'll see how this does for me. So basically over here, well, I have one little box down here. Here's my favorite water jug in the back. Here's my timer I use for timed drawings. Here is my charcoal, and here's some more charcoal tools as well. Then here I have a box that contains all my tools for ink and all my favorite inks, the ones that I'm most likely to use. And over here I've added another little box, as you can see, to keep this contained. And I have here watercolors. That too are watercolors. Here are all my favorite new colors, the new color tools. And back here some masking fluid, the only one I kept, and I thought, who knows, maybe I will actually use it. At the very bottom floor I have, well, here my container with my acrylic gouache, and then here I have things that need to be stored horizontally. And under the kuritake I have a box, just gonna quickly show you. And this box contains the few acrylic paints that I have and that I want to try to use more. In terms of organizing, putting them below the other stuff might not be ideal, but the thing is that I know I'm only going to use those acrylic paints sometimes, and I'm not going to combine them with other things. And then here we just have my palettes that I use. And this gouache varnish, which I decided to keep for now, but it's right here, and I hope I'm gonna use it, and if not, that means I'm gonna give it away. So this is how the art card looks now. I'm really happy with it. Not that much has actually changed, but I've tidied up this entire lower level and added some new things here. Cleaned everything up and reorganized some stuff. And there's also a few things that are no longer on the art card, so there's more space. This art card has worked really well for me, especially this top level. I mean, I'm so happy I have this, that everything is just super available. And I also sometimes I really roll it around and I will bring it with me to the couch table, for instance. So this is great. But so my art card is here, and it's basically behind my table. And then over here is the window. This is to my left. Please ignore how dirty the windows are. They really have to be cleaned. So this I already had here before. So these are my sharpeners and erasers. Over here some soft pastels. But what's new are those two things. So these two things are in the use up category, so I want to use those for warm-ups and explorations. A few inks and some acrylic ink and acrylic paint that I want to use up. So as you can see, this is a bit the setting. This is the spot where I'm usually working, and then I have some things there in the back on the windowsill. And my art card right behind me. It's super practical this way. So over here we kind of have all of our art stuff. But the thing is this is a shared space, and so this is not all mine. So all of this stuff over here, that belongs to my boyfriend, and also everything on this shelf over here, that's also my boyfriend. And those two things here in the middle we share, and so I'm going to show this to you a bit more. I'm so happy with how this is all clear up here now. There was so much stuff that we stored up there. I'm going to show you this drawer, for instance, as an example. Now this hasn't really changed. This was already exactly the same before. But just to show you how we really apply these compartments inside of drawers. And it really helps to keep things a bit tidy. So here are scissors and tools, and then over here we have all kind of glues. This one doesn't fit, and here's some rulers and those things, I don't know what they're called. Over here I can demonstrate something else for you. Again, it's full, it's a bit crowded, but it works. And here's another example of storing things vertically. You can just take everything out that you need and put it right back. If they were stacked, I would always have to pull from below and everything would get disordered. It's harder to put back. And again, you see we have little containers inside, or all these ropes are contained within this glass. everything is contained like this. Over here we have our paper. This was like this before, but I've tidied it up a bit. I removed some other stuff that was accumulating on the right, and I added some of the smaller papers. Down here we have some more supports to draw on, some kind of canvases, and here we keep some hard carton that we could paint on. This you might recognize from my watercolor challenge, so all kind of little pieces of watercolor paper and other loose paper. And here we have some more mini blocks of paper and some mini canvases. And here in the back we have some wooden pieces that are also to draw on. So all of this is again one theme. It's not all the same material, but it's all supports to draw on. And again, you see certain things contained. This is contained, and here everything is vertical. Here again, nothing has really changed. Here we have each a basket with all of our current sketchbooks. Underneath we have this document holder that we found or thrifted at some point that holds all the acrylic markers. Then here, this is new. We don't really use either of these Ecoline markers and watercolor markers. This is one of those things, like, we don't use them so much, but I definitely wanted to keep them, and I want to challenge myself to use these more. And this is where my boyfriend keeps all these pigments. Here I tucked in some things that are really big and hard to store. It's basically some really big paper, my really big sketchbooks, and some cutting mats or protective surfaces. Here, this shelf, we have reorganized a lot, and we've taken out a lot of things. Over here we have my oil pastels, including this sharpener. Here we have more oil pastels and some oil sticks. This is the drawer with my creative projects that I've just taken it out to use it. Down here, this is new. I've put all of my gouache in here and all of my aquarelle over here. So these are all my tubes. And here in the back I have a little container with all my pens. And this metallic watercolor that I almost never use, but I still know the day will come where I'm gonna want to use it for some project or Christmas card, so I'm keeping it. The reason I'm storing them here is because both of these, I don't really use them from the tube, and so they can just be all here together. It's basically backstock because usually I use them from the palettes that I have. And then here, this hasn't changed. This has basically all kind of big paper we have. Now, this is not the most efficient because maybe you can see that this takes only a small portion of the drawer. But the thing is that it's really well protected in here, and we don't really have another good place to store this, and that's why this will stay here. It has been working for us. And then there's one more drawer, and that's this one here. So this is where I have some empty bags that I might use for travel. In here I'm keeping all the travel tools I might need. Here is my collection of stickers that I still have to use. Here's one more set of watercolors that for now I still want to keep. And same with these pencils. There's one set of regular and one set of watercolor pencils that I still want to keep. And here is my backstock of Neocolor 2s. I still have a few other drawers here in another room, but these are things I don't need access to so much. So over here I have other stickers from more like office kind of stickers. Here I have some really big brushes and palette knives and this sort of thing. This is more for if I ever do a really big painting, which I'm planning on, but I haven't really done that yet. Over here is my drawer with all my things for these refillable markers where you can mix your own colors. So I still have a couple empty ones and paint to mix your own markers. Here I have some tote bags that I wanted to do something creative with, and a brush roll. Down here is my tiny oil paint drawer with everything for oil painting, which I haven't done much, but I might still get back into it. I especially enjoyed using the cold wax painting medium, so you never know, I definitely want to keep this. And down here at the very bottom is kind of my printing drawer where I keep some lino blocks, the carving tools, those printing rolls, and the paint. By the way, here is everything I've decluttered. I think it's pretty good. Now, of course, I still have a lot, and I could have decluttered a lot more if I really had to. But the thing is, for me, what's important too is to change my consumption behavior. And that means that I don't want to declutter something now that I will buy again a few years down the line. And that's why I keep things like all of my brushes. Of course, I won't need them all anytime soon, but I'm hoping that this way I won't have to ever rebuy brushes again, or at least not anytime soon. So how much you declutter is obviously up to you, and it also depends on how much space you have. But I would still say try not to declutter anything that you will buy again down the line. Okay guys, now you've seen everything, and I've said everything I wanted to say about decluttering and reorganizing. This has turned out to be a super long video, but I thought it should be all in one. I didn't want to split it up. I hope it's been useful, and I hope that you feel inspired to declutter or organize. Even if it's not a huge project, maybe there's just some items you can let go of, or that one messy drawer that you could tackle. By the way, here you can see me already using some of those items from my Use It Up challenge. I'm using some ink here that I want to declutter, as well as some of those papers with some paint on it already that I wanted to use for backgrounds. Because the challenge starts right now. In the next video, I want to address how to actually use up all of these art materials we have. So I want to come up with some ideas and put them all in the next video. I hope you'll be around for that. Please consider liking and subscribing if you want to support my little art channel. Thank you so much for watching, especially if you watched the entire video until the end. Thanks a lot. Let me know in the comments what you think and whether you might also try to declutter or organize something. Alright, I hope to see you next week. Stay creative. So long and take care.